25 years ago this month, you did something very special. And I have to ask you about it. You were at Millbrook.
Oh, God, yeah.
On the Millbrook Bowl in a McLaren F1. And
oh, my goodness.
So this is the 2 Mile Bowl at Millbrook. So it's not an enormous bowl like Nardo in Italy. It's quite a tight little bowl, isn't it?
Yeah.
And nevertheless, you drove a McLaren F1 around there at an average of 195.3 miles an hour, peaking at just over 200 miles an hour. And Andrew, how fast is that around Millbrook?
It is utterly deranged. So, Tiff, I think, and you may not know this, I think you were breaking a record I created. You were trying to go for the fastest lap of UK circuit in a production car.
Wasn't it you in a Jaguar? Someone did 220.
Well, hang on, I'll get to that in a minute. No, I edited the motoring section of the Guinness Book of Records back in the late 1980s, and I always wanted to break a record. So I didn't want to set a record; I wanted to break one. So I created this record. And do you remember Howard Lees?
Know the name, yeah.
Okay, he was the road test editor of Autocar at the time. I then got Howard to go off and set the record, and he did it in a Ferrari Testarossa at 160 something. I then thought, okay, I'll get a faster Ferrari and I'll break it. And so I went round. I think I did 175 in a 512 TR, and thought to myself, that is more than fast enough to be going around here. Colin Goodwin then cheated by using an XJ220S, of which they only made 3, and it needed to be a production car, and that wasn't.
Yeah,
but not that I'm bitter about this at all, and don't remind Colin of it every time I see him. But sorry, the only point is that I know what it is like to circulate Millbrook 20 miles an hour slower than you did, which is it's not a night and day, it's a week and a month in terms of what. And honestly, I don't know how you did it in a car, particularly with no downforce. God knows what the tyres were doing.
Road tyres, well, they were road tyres. Well, this was the trouble. Things I was worried the tyres would overheat because obviously constant, Yeah. So we do 3 or 4 laps. I'd come in and they'd check the temperature, but it was a really cold day. And so by the time I'd done a slowing down lap, looking back now, of course, the temperature come down quite a lot. But it was also had a strong wind. And I did 180 without thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then another 5 miles an hour. And then another 3 miles an hour. And just going 3 or 4 miles an hour, the difference it made. And we had this sort of a very strong wind in one direction. So for half the lap of the wind behind me, and then half the lap the wind was against me, sort of, and pushing from one side. And I still remember now about three quarters of the lap when I was sort of holding it up against the wind, and all of a sudden it would come to the wind ahead of me, and the wheel would be wibbly-wobbly, and then the wind was the other way. So I'd have to hold it.
And there's a bump, isn't there? About halfway around, there's just a bump in the. Yeah.
So that's why I could do over 200 miles an hour on the downwind bit, but it was too wiggly on the up. So I wanted to average 200. That's what I wanted to do. So it was a bit frustrating. Then I had this big, huge wobble when the rear tyres blistered. So
honestly.
So I'm now doing all this correcting, knowing the tyres have gone. And of course, you can't lift off quickly because of the torque. The braking effect would spin you around. So I had to slowly ease it down from that rusty guardrail, which I doubt would have held me back, to be honest.
At all.
The infield on the left just had stuff and ditches.
Buildings and stuff like that. Yeah, yes. I remember. Yeah.
So that's why I always look back and think the day I nearly killed myself for comic relief, because it was Top Gear's. Every BBC programme had to come up and break a record. So it was the Top Gear team that came up, looked around your record books to your record and thought, maybe we can beat that one. But the shot of it, I still look back occasionally at the video. It looked like a fighter plane, a jet fighter. The sound of it when it went past the camera.
I mean, the proof of the pudding, Tiff, is that despite the most enormous developments in car technology and power and speed since then, no one's even tried to beat it.
Well, you'd have to go to racing tyres. The tyres, if you went on slick tyres, you could probably do it, but that's the problem. You can't. And of course, the modern supercars, hypercars, they're heavier, aren't they? They're also nearly 2 tons, so that wouldn't go around very well. So I'm not sure what you could use without.
Honestly,
it was quite.
I thought that was. I can't believe you did that. That was absolutely bonkers.
I thought it'd be a bit easier than it was.
I bet you did.